Chiche, can you please make her a co-host?
Okay.
Yeah, I lost the access.
Okay. I can't make her the co-host from my end. The option is not coming up.
Oh, okay.
What is yours? Me co-host. Let me try.
The other, the
The
other
host
person,
is able to do that. Yeah.
yeah, the host should please make me to a co-host. I was host earlier, but someone reclaimed it. Yeah. NG messages, please make us co-host. All right, people have joined your live.
Nyale boda. Nyale boda. Hello, nyane. Network hello do dai.
Okay. Hi everyone. Good morning.
Good
If you can
morning.
hear me, okay, kindly react with an emoji. If you can hear me, kindly react with an emoji. And there are housekeeping rules. Please turn off your mic, and if you want to talk, just raise your hand. There's an icon for that. Thank you, Temitope. I see
Nyale
you.
boda.
Thank you so.
Oh, well, anyalo kore rin.
Okay, please kindly mute yourselves.
Maybe to miss
Let me
call
get
out.
that in my end. Okay, can everyone see and hear me? Why is it blurry? A minute, please. Um, okay, I'm going to attend to that later on. So, everyone, welcome to today's session. Be empowering. It's going to be very informative. So I urge everyone to I urge everyone to pay attention and come ready, come prepared, come open-minded. Daniel, I see you. Daniel Bako session. So I'm sure everyone received the handbook, so you already have the goal of today's learning session. And before this, so you're able to are able to of what assess your knowledge of what you understand about today's learning class, and then there'll also be the post learning survey also. So while we commence, I'm going to impute the pre-learning survey link for everyone to take the survey. It's not going to take time. It's not going to take time at all. So you just do that, and we go on from there. Okay, so
if we miss it, then we are born again. We cannot.
I want to believe we all had a great week.
We cannot
Kindly
share
mute yourself, please. Kindly mute yourself.
no. In the future, when we are used to attitude
Oh yes, I'm on it already. Thank you. I see your comment, Joseph Prince. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I just sent the pre-survey link to everyone. So please fill the form, fill it, and I'll get your feedback. We're going to get your feedback over at NG's SDJs. So just kindly fill out the form. Okay. So I want this session to be very interactive, very engaging. So in one word, kindly comment in the chat box how you're feeling today ahead of today's learning session. If you're feeling good, type it in. If you're feeling there, just type it in also. So just I want to get everyone's response in how you're all feeling. Maybe perhaps. Okay, Joseph, I see you. Okay, that was my network. Can everyone hear me right now? Okay, yeah, can everyone hear me right now? Okay, yes, I'm seeing Adiola. He feels great. Olufemi feels good, great, great. Feel exciting. That's nice. Okay, thank you, Aniola. So today is going to be very, very interesting, very enlightening, very informative. We have our speaker in the house already, and shortly I'm going to be reading a bio so we understand the kind of wealth of wisdom and knowledge that we're going to, drink from and gain from. So I want everyone to be prepared mentally and physically, be present here, be very, very present. It's not going to take so much time. We have, I think, an hour, 30 minutes, and then we'll be out of here. So let's all do well to, commit ourselves to this. We've come a long way for it to be here. You've come a long way already. Okay, Peace says she feels good.
Hello, everyone. So, while we are waiting for our network to be balanced, I hope we are having a good time this morning. And okay,
Okay.
all right. Oh, yeah, she's back.
All right. Thank you very much, Apemi. Thank you. I think it's my network, so I've switched already. Okay. So, is it clear now? Is it better now?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear now.
All right. That's great. That's great. Thank you very much. Okay. So I shared the link for the pre-learning survey in the chat box. I think people are just joining, so I'm going to share it again. So let's endeavor to fill out the pre-learning survey. Let's endeavor. It's actually very, very important. So let's fill it. Let's fill it out. I'm going to share it again so everyone can fill it out. Thank you. It wouldn't take so much of your time. Yeah. Welcome, Gondi. Gondi. I hope I pronounced that right. From J Town. Yes, from Jos. I'm happy to have you here. We're so happy to have you here. Thank you, Silas. Thank you. Okay, so I just sent the link. If you fill the form already, you do not need to fill the form. Like I'm talking about today, right now. If you fill the form today already, you do not need to fill the form again. I'm sending to those persons that are just joining us right now. So kindly fill the pre learning survey form. Kindly fill it. Thank you. Felix Yunusa, you feel good. That's great. I'm happy you feel that way. Okay, I'm going to share as more people are joining, I'll be sharing the form so nobody's left out. Nobody's left out and the information is not buried in other messages. So let's do well to fill out the form. Okay. Okay, I'm not seeing your comments anymore. I want to know we're roughly over 80 on this call, and then I want to know how everyone is feeling. I want to know how our week has been. I want to know how you're prepared or how you made preparations in anticipation for today's session. Timpa, you're welcome. Oh, it's because you went to fill the form. That's fine. That's fine. Please fill the form. Yeah, thank you. So I'll just give roughly a minute or two so we can all fill the form and join back on the call so we can start today's lessons. Okay. Weekend is going great. You want to take cold zobo this morning? How do you want to take cold zobo this morning? You should be taking tea or something or hot chocolate, not cold zobo. Okay, yeah, because the weather is hot. Okay, yeah, that's understandable. No, the Anas Umar, there's a form. I'm going to send it again. Here is it. So kindly fill this form. I just sent a link to the group chat. So fill the form here. It's pre-learning survey. Okay. Okay. So yes, you need strength for the class. I'm seeing. Okay, I'm seeing everyone. The form we're talking about is the pre-learning survey form. It's to access our learning or our understanding of what we're going to discuss in today's class. So everyone should endeavor to fill it. It's actually very important that you fill it out. Deborah, I hope that clarifies your question. Emmanuel Joseph from Cross River, welcome. Welcome to today's learning session. Yeah, it's also in the email, but I also shared it on here, so it will be easier for you to access, and you can just fill it right away. Rebecca from Oyo, welcome. Salome Ogurumba, welcome. I don't think I pronounced the name right, but welcome. Remember our housekeeping rule. Please turn off your audio, turn off your microphone. When you have questions, raise your hand and you'd be told to unmute and speak. You can also ask questions by typing it in the chat box. It will definitely be it will definitely be viewed. Okay. So while we're doing that, I don't know if any of us, because I have we still have roughly, okay, we have just 5 minutes. We have just 5 minutes, and I want us to play a game. It's going to be a quick game while we're waiting for people to, fill out the form. It's going to be a really quick game. I'm going to share my screen right now, and there are words that are going to be there, like actual words that are going to be there, but they are misspelled. So if you are able to guess the actual word, that means you win. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen right now so you can see the word. I'm going to give an example. Okay. Yeah. So the first word, I don't know if you can see my screen. If you can see my screen, just um type in the comment section that you can see or react with an emoji. Okay. So the first word right now is Ilidin. I don't know. So the correct answer is actually, like, if I say spell it correctly, it's actually supposed to be Aladdin. I don't know if you got that. I don't know if how many of us saw Aladdin when we were growing up. Okay. So that's how the game is going to be. So the first person that can guess the right word, that person won that round. Okay. Are we on board with that? If you're on board with that, just react with an emoji, your favorite emoji, um, so we can get it started. So it's not going to take so much time. Okay, so the second word, I don't know if you can still see my screen. The second word is stairwares. So I'm going to go to the chat box and see who got it right. So the second word is stairwares. If you can see my screen, I want to know who got it right. Steer Waters, Star Wars, yes, Omo Aero Victoria got it right. Angie in turn got it right also. So the second word is actually Star Wars. Well done. Well done. Well done. Well done. Okay. The next word is Hitty Peter. Hitty Peter. Who can get the right word? You can see climate change. Yes, we're all about climate change. We're all about climate change. That's the reason why we're here today. Harry Potter. Yes, Harry Potter. Let me see who got it right first. Umar Aliyu got it right first. Yes, Umar Aliyu got it right first. Well done, Damla Bankole. Okay, I'm going to pull up the next word. I don't want you guys to see everything. Okay, are we there? Are we there? Okay. So this is the second word. It's a compound word. This is the word. So I'm waiting for a response in the comment section. The word is Finding Nimi. So I want the actual word. I want the actual word. Who is going to be the first person? Who is going to get it right? I'm seeing flooding, feeding me. Augustine, Finding Nemo. Yes, that's correct. Chugo Agaji got it right. Let me react. I need to even be reacting and be giving you thumbs up. Let me be giving you thumbs up. Okay, so Agaji got it right. It's Finding Nemo. It's a cartoon. I'm sure most of us, if not all. Yeah. So I just reacted. My reaction was for Chiugo Agaji. Okay, so there's going to be one more word. There's going to be one more word, and we'll call it a wrap. And then I'm going to introduce our speaker, our facilitator for today. So one more word. Okay, we have this. Tada! So who can? This is easy peasy. I want to see your responses in the comment section. There's a new word up right now. Climate change. Thank you very much. Who is that? Let me see. Let me see who that is. That is, I'm seeing Eniola testimony. Yes, Eniola Lawal was the first person. Yay, well done, well done, well done, well done. Chikam Nile, yes, you all are correct. Climate change. Climate change. Thank you very much. So that's a wrap. Please, a round of applause for each and every one of you. I'm clapping from my end, so you can please clap from your end or react using the reactions from your reaction box. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Yo, well done. Okay, so we're starting now. I'm going to introduce our facilitator. The reason why we're here today, to learn from our wealth of experience, to learn from our experience and knowledge. And this would help us going forward in moving forward, even as Climate Voices Nigeria. And I hope, and I'm very positive that we're going to be blessed today. Okay, so our facilitator's name is Fatima Aliyu Magaji. I don't know if I got it right. I think it's Mogaji. Yes. Fatima Aliyu Magaji is an environmentalist and certified climate champion. She's the founder of the environmental initiative Farm for Future. Through this platform, she consistently leverages collaborations and partnerships to champion environmental sustainability initiatives in Nigeria. She utilizes her platforms to advocate for responsible consumption and production and stronger environmental laws. Her interest lies in addressing the issue of plastic pollution and advancing the circular economy. She also follows international policy processes related to climate change and global environmental governance. In 2022, she was selected as one of two young people who represented Nigeria at the first edition of the Pan African Agency for the Great Green Wall's Green Youth Caravan, joining participants from other Great Green Wall member states to travel a distance of 3,000 kilometers from Senegal to Mauritania and Mali to learn about combating desertification, drought, and land degradation within a local context. She served as a youth champion for the National Agency for the Great Green Wall in 2023. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Fatima Aliyu Magaji. I'm not seeing the claps, I'm not seeing the emojis. Please let it flow. Let it flow. Thank you very much. Okay, Fatima, over to you.
Thank you so much, Ochichi. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right too. Yeah.
Yes, it's Ochichi, but thank you.
Ochichi. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Climate Voices Nigeria Bootcamp. Today we're going to be talking about the effects of climate change, its impact, and how we can address these issues in our communities. So I think by now we could start sharing the screen, the presentation. I'm sorry, am I loud enough for everybody? Like, can everyone hear me fine? Okay. All right, thank you. Okay. So, like I said, we're going to explore the impacts of climate change and from global impacts to how it affects us in Nigeria. Just give me a minute and then I'll just look through. I can't see the screen anymore. I can't see the screen.
Oh, you can't see my screen?
Yeah, I cannot.
Wow.
Okay, I see now.
Okay.
Okay, you can move to the next slide. Yeah, you could move to the next slide. Okay, thank you. Sorry, everyone, please just give me a minute. I'm experiencing some slight issues. Okay, because I also need to be seeing my screen. Aha. Thank you. So, well, we're going to start by defining what climate change is, right? So climate change is something that you hear about often. Climate change and health, climate change and mobility, climate change, and so on and so forth. Climate adaptation, mitigation, blah, 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 blah. But nobody really sits you down to tell you what does climate change actually mean, like on a scientific term, right? Or environmental or geographical, whichever way you choose to call it. So, but for those of us who study maybe science courses, like this is something that we got to hear about. And even if you took maybe just basic chemistry or physics in secondary school, you must have heard about global warming, ozone layer, and even though this was not officially called climate change as at the time, but you had concept of global warming and climate change, and ozone layer in secondary school. So, and I'm sure maybe participants in this group may be graduates or undergraduates of chemistry, science, natural science courses, or even geography. So anyway, climate change is the long-term alteration of temperature and typical weather patterns in a place. But unlike natural weather fluctuations, climate change happens over decades or even centuries. And the primary cause is human activity. That is the burning of fossil fuels like coal, oil, and gas. And these activities release greenhouse gases that trap heat into the atmosphere, causing the planet to warm. So it's kind of like a blanket. As the solar radiation or the infrared radiation is coming from the sun, these gases are trapping the radiation in the atmosphere. So this warming disrupts natural climate patterns, leading to more extreme weather events like heat waves, and rising sea levels and changes in precipitation patterns. Could you go to the next slide, please? I don't know, I think I should, okay. So what causes climate change? The main culprit behind climate change is the emission of greenhouse gases. These gases are known as carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, chlorofluorocarbons, so many chemical terms, but these are what is called the greenhouse gases, and they trap heat from the sun into the atmosphere, causing the planet to warm. Like I said, it's kind of like a blanket around the atmosphere. What causes climate change? The burning of fossil fuels for electricity, transportation, and heating is the primary source of greenhouse gas emissions. Additionally, deforestation, that's like the large-scale removal of trees, also releases stored carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Trees are known as the lungs of our planet. So when we cut them down, we're releasing our carbon sinks, and instead of these gases going into the trees, they are being released into the atmosphere. So that must definitely be counterproductive. Industrial processes, also like cement production, contribute heavily to greenhouse gas emissions. And I think it's important to note that climate change is one of the triple planetary crises we face today, alongside biodiversity loss and pollution. So there are also some natural causes of climate change, like volcanic eruptions and solar radiation. Yeah, so you could go to the next slide. So we'll be talking about the effects of climate change and its global impacts. And you can see a picture of a heavily flooded city. This is most likely in the West. So the effects of climate change are being felt worldwide. Unfortunately, climate change knows no borders because it is an atmospheric thing. So it's not going to decide which way it's going to hit or not. So, but rising sea levels threaten coastal communities and low-lying islands. There are several small island countries and cities that could vanish due to climate change. We're experiencing more extreme weather events like heat waves, droughts, floods, wildfires, hurricanes around the world. So I live in Abuja right now, and it is extremely hot. I feel like I could be melting, right? In other parts of the country, there are severe droughts, and in other parts of the country, it's raining so much, or rather it rains so much when the rain starts that it leads to floods. And then you see that typically like in the West, they experience wildfires and hurricanes. So there are different effects of climate change depending on the context. Precipitation patterns are also changing, leading to water scarcity in some regions and devastating floods in others. Climate change is also causing ocean acidification, harming marine ecosystems. Life on Earth, there's an ecosystem, right? And when one is affected, the whole cycle is disrupted. So diversity of life on Earth in general is under threat as habitats change and temperatures rise. We will now go to the impact of climate change in Nigeria. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thanks. No, you've missed one. Go back, please. Sorry, I can't see your screen anymore. Should be sharing my screen instead. Aha, thank you. So climate change in Nigeria is particularly vulnerable to the effects of climate change, right? Rising temperatures are already being observed across the country. And like I mentioned, climate change knows no borders. So while Nigeria, which is in the African continent, emits less than 4% of global greenhouse gas emissions, because remember I mentioned that climate change is caused due to greenhouse gas emissions. So if Nigeria, which is on the African continent, entirely doesn't emit less than 4% of greenhouse gas emissions, why are we still feeling the brunt of these effects of climate change? So, but climate change knows no borders. Rainfall patterns are becoming erratic. They're becoming more erratic. They are leading to floods in some areas and devastation droughts in others. Countries like Kenya are experiencing severe droughts. And then in Nigeria, coastal cities like Lagos are threatened by rising sea levels, putting infrastructures and communities at risk. But I also like to mention that while climate change contributes to sea level rise, we also need to know that there are so many other factors that contribute to floods, especially in cities like Lagos, because there's not the right infrastructure in place. There's poor waste management, and there's improper buildings and stuff like that. So this definitely contributes. And I think like in 2022, we saw how several states in Nigeria were submerged in water. And these are states like Kogi, Anambra, Bayelsa, Kano, Jigawa, and so on. And I know this was largely contributed to the Lagdo Dam, which was released, right? But then there are communities like Ayetoro in Ondo State, which know climate change so well because they are coastal communities, so they know what sea level rise is and they face these issues every day. So, but then the impact of climate change in Nigeria threatens food security, largely attributed to the floods. Please, could you go to the next slide? Yeah, largely attributed to the floods because Nigeria's economy is highly reliant on agriculture, with a significant portion of our population engaged in farming and related activities. So climate change poses a significant threat to food security in Nigeria. Droughts due to erratic rainfall patterns reduce crop yields and livestock production. Floods can also devastate farmlands and destroy crops ready for harvest. We've seen this largely in 2020. It was literally unprecedented. So changing weather patterns definitely disrupts traditional planting and harvesting cycles, making it difficult for farmers to adapt and have access to enough safe and nutritious food. Also, when these floods happen, they affect not only lives, but also livelihoods because vast agricultural produce is being washed away in the process. There's got to be an impact. So now we've touched on the impacts of climate. We know the effects of climate change in Nigeria. We know its impacts on livelihoods and we know its impact on food security. But how about the ecosystem, right? We are all in one large ecosystem. So Nigeria has diverse ecosystems ranging from rainforests in the south to the savannas in the north. Rising temperatures and droughts can lead to desertification. Desertification is when fertile land begins to, or rather, it's not even fertile anymore if it can be desertified, right? But fertile land starts to transform and degrade into like a desert-like environment, and is a gradual process driven by a combination of natural factors and human activities. So in this slide, you could see picture of a desertified area, and this is in Yobe State. This is in Yusufari in Yobe State, and also in some areas in northwestern Nigeria, like Sokoto, Kebbi. There's also certain levels of desertification happening to some extent. And then there's also wetlands. Maintaining wetlands and the changes in rainfall patterns also disrupt these vital ecosystems. So going from ecosystems, we now move into livelihoods because many of Nigerians rely on natural resources for their livelihoods. And these livelihoods could be farming, it could be fishing, it could be pastoralist, and it could be forestry. Climate change disrupts these livelihoods by disrupting agricultural activity, affecting fish populations, and limiting access to forest resources. There's also a huge displacement of communities due to flooding and desertification. Climate displacement is a growing trend, and I witnessed this firsthand in 2022. So you imagine you're living somewhere in Yusufari, and you wake up one morning and literally the desert has gotten to your doorstep. There are I have seen several homes that people had to leave because they could no longer live in them. So if you cannot even live in this environment, talk about now planting. There's no way you can even grow food in these places. So this is definitely a growing trend: climate displacement, climate mobility. More people are being admitted into internally displaced camps beyond just the insecurity that we're facing in the country. And another thing is that there's a disproportionate impact of climate change on vulnerable groups such as women, children, and marginalized communities, because climate-related disasters increase already existing social inequalities and food insecurity. But it's not all bad news, right? We can definitely adapt by building resilience. All right. So we've seen how climate change is impacting Nigeria. Yes, thanks. You could move to the next slide. Thank you. So we could build resilience, right? So if you follow climate change or you hear about climate change, you often hear terms like climate mitigation, which is the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions, climate adaptation, which is essentially adapting to the impact of climate change as it is right now. And how can you adapt? By building resilience, all right? So we've seen how climate change is impacting Nigeria, but here's the good news. We're not powerless. There are ways we can adapt and build resilience because, okay, so imagine like Nigeria is a mighty tree. The stronger its roots, the better it can weather the storm. So how do we strengthen these roots? We can develop crops that can handle drier conditions. So think drought-resistant varieties that thrive with less water. Crops like cassava, millet, sorghum, and so on are known to do that. And there's so much research going on which plants can survive even in floods. So we can also get smarter about how we use water. So you think about rainwater harvesting and drip irrigation. These are techniques that give that is kind of like giving thirsty plants a refreshing drink. So a picture that comes to mind is, for example, in some parts in northern Nigeria, it rains today and you go there tomorrow, it's like it didn't even rain at all. So, but you need this water, right? There is water scarcity. You need this water to continue agricultural activities. So, but every time it rains, the water literally runs off. So I'll give you an example. The National Agency for the Green Water is the federal agency with a mandate to combat desertification, drought, and land degradation in Nigeria. So basically, they do tree planting activities in the north, in Nigeria's drylands, which is from the northwest to the northeast, right? So a technique that they adopted, I think around 2021 or 2022, was the use of side pits. And this is called the half moon method. This is an inexpensive method where they dig pits around the sites that they're going to plant. So when it rains, instead of this water just running off, it's being trapped into the soil. And they can plant and sustain this water for a long while. So there's also this new technology called the Oasis water box, which if they are able to push this out to everywhere, will be a game changer because it's kind of like the drip irrigation method where they manage to trap water and it's supplies water to the plants little by little, avoiding the runoff and saving this water that we desperately need. Another strategy is sustainable land management, and this is my personal favorite because we get our water from the land and we get our food from the land. So it means that we must treat the land with respect by avoiding practices that lead to soil erosion and promoting healthy ecosystems. Unsustainable land use like overgrazing, improper agricultural practices like bush burning, and also hunting wildlife, our popular bushmeat, and the use of toxic chemicals as pesticides affects biodiversity, which still leads us back to this ecosystem disruption. Another strategy is the use of early warning systems for extreme weather events. By anticipating floods, droughts, and heat waves, communities can be better prepared. And another thing, again, is the use of indigenous knowledge. Most of these communities, like for example, in my state, Sokoto State, if you go to Sokoto right now, they literally tell you that there are plants that they see, that when they see these plants, they know that the desert is approaching. So indigenous knowledge definitely matters. People know what is happening. They may not be able to tell you that this is climate change in English, but they know how to communicate it in other languages. Like they know this is something they do every day. Of course, they are aware of what's going on. So definitely engaging communities in building early warning systems can help to better prepare to adapt to the impacts of climate change. Then finally, our coastal communities, there are ways to adapt to rising sea levels. We can think about elevating buildings, creating natural barriers like mangroves, and exploring plant relocation for vulnerable areas. These are just a few examples, and there's a lot more to explore. Building resilience is a team effort, the government, international organizations, and all of us have a role to play in it. Then, of course, we can now move to mapping our climate future. Next slide, please. So let's get down to some action. We can all be climate change champions right here in our communities. Next slide, please. Yes, thank you. So have you noticed any changes in the weather lately? I have. It's extremely hot. I'm practically melting. Maybe it's hotter than usual, or the rainy season seems unpredictable, which it kind of is at the moment. For the past 3 years, the rainy season has been literally unpredictable in Nigeria. So these are all clues about how climate change is playing out locally. Is the flooding more frequent or more intense? Are droughts lasting longer? So keeping track of these patterns helps us to understand the bigger picture. Another way to map climate change impact is to identify areas affected by flooding, drought, or desertification. So think of working with community members to map these areas, and this can be as simple as a hand-drawn sketch. Finally, let's talk to our neighbors. I always emphasize on indigenous knowledge, and also there's something that we call climate elders, right? So it's speaking to our elders to ask them, like, how was it a few years ago? How was it a few years ago? Has this always been like this? What has changed, you know? And you see that there's a lot of bouncing back of ideas and experiences. So hearing these experiences and observations adds valuable pieces to the puzzle, because it's only when we speak to each other that we can build a clearer picture of how climate change is affecting our communities. What may be affecting the northern Nigeria may not be affecting the south. What is affecting the south may not be affecting the north. But at least one thing I can say is that generally in Nigeria, flood is a constant thing that we all know so well. So we must never forget to speak to communities and seek indigenous knowledge. Remember that knowledge is power. The more we learn about climate change, the better equipped we are going to be to tackle it. So get involved in climate advocacy efforts, raise awareness, and talk to your local representatives. Find out what the climate policies are, what our government stance is, and where we are on international climate negotiations. There's a whole community of people out there who are working towards a greener tomorrow. So stay tuned for upcoming events and workshops related to climate change, because you're officially part of it. Thank you very much for listening. Next slide. Yes, so I tried to make my presentation very straight to the point, not to bore you with any technical language, as I myself, I am also a beginner, right? So yeah, this brings me to the end. Thank you very much. Ucheche, back to you.
Okay, hi, Fatima. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so for now, do you mind taking questions right now?
Yes, I can take questions right now.
Okay, that's great. So anyone, if you have a question you'd like to ask Fatima, you can either, if you're too shy to speak up, I hope you're not though, you can leave it in the chat box, or just raise your hand, and then I'll put you on queue and you can ask your question verbally. Okay, does that work? Yeah, very concise and educative. Fatima, thank you for that. Thank you for that beautiful presentation. Thank you so much. I learned a lot. I learned a couple of things also that I would share. Okay, I'm seeing testimony all day. I'm seeing Friday Edois. Okay, first testimony. Can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much. That was really, really educative. So my question is this. In my school at the moment, you talked about deforestation, like cutting down trees massively. In my school at the moment, we've got lots of trees. However, for a while, I've been noticing that they've been cutting lots of the trees down, like 10 trees in a row. And these are trees that are so big and huge. So you know that they took a really long time to grow. And I don't know what to do about it. I have been thinking though of, like, writing a letter to the VC or something like that, but I don't know the best way to go about it and just like really take actions that will stop that as well as improve climate change in my school.
testimony. This is a very important question, and this is something that also bothers me a lot. For example, in my area, I noticed that every time they are building hotels or malls, they would usually cut down all the trees around it and they don't plant them back because they're trying to maintain the aesthetics. So what I would definitely advise is, since you're in a, I don't know, did you say a university or anyway, higher institution, right? So what I could advise is that you could maybe gather a few people who share the same interest as you or who are bothered about the same thing as you. And then when you do that, I think you will have more support. So when you guys do that, maybe organize a small meeting or something and just discuss the trend you're seeing of cutting down these large trees. First of all, I think it would be a good idea for you to even find out the name of these trees, find out how long it takes for these trees to grow, you know, and that's going to be like maybe 30 or maybe over 30 years probably. So find out how long it takes these trees to grow, find out their names. I'm saying this because I want you to connect with the trees personally, right? Know as much as you can about the tree. Try to paint this picture of this seeing this tree as part of the ecosystem, because it is. So when you do that, you then maybe devise a plan. And I'm not going to give you the plan itself because I don't even know it myself too, but I would say that, okay, you could even study some policies like maybe illegal logging or cutting down of trees, felling of trees. Find out what your state government says about cutting down trees. Find out what the law says about it. Consult a few people who know what the law says about it. So that's why I said you need people to assist you, so that even if you're not good on research, somebody else could be good on research, somebody else could be good with negotiation, somebody else could be good with, you know, speaking up. And then this is me thinking a bit big, but you could organize maybe like a small meeting, or you could call for a small, I don't know, should I call this a town hall meeting or something in your school, maybe in a small hall or something, and just discuss. After discussing this thing, you then devise a plan. And then this could be maybe writing a letter to the VC or whoever it is, stating that we are well aware of what is going on, and you are worried that these trees, this cutting of these trees has this many impacts. So it starts by you maybe educating yourself a bit about why felling of these trees is wrong on all levels. So I think that with that you could devise a plan on how best to interact with them. I hope this helps you. And of course, you can always adapt it to your own situation.
All right, thank you so much, Fatima. Testimony, did you get that? Okay, we're going to move on. But Fatima, thank you for that response.
Thank
Okay.
you so much.
All right, that's great. So start from where you are. Testimony, start from where you are, organize let's say small groups, and you know, start having conversations about this, and that's how change happens. Thank you. Okay, the next person is Bisola Bamidele. Bisola, okay, someone dropped a question in the chat box. Timothy, I've seen your question. I'm going to take it.
I thought you asked to go home.
Let's mute ourselves. Blessing Odumo.
Yeah, this
I've
is
also seen your
Bisola.
question. Okay, Bisola, please speak. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for the opportunity, and I really want to thank the guest speaker. It was really straight to the point. But my question goes like this. For most of us climate activists and, most of us that don't want the loss of biodiversity to be rampant like that, what do we do looking at the human dimension of conservation when it comes to conservation of our biodiversity? Because most villages or rural areas, they majorly, let's just say they majorly depend on the forests for what they eat, for their livelihood. And at some point, it actually pushes them to the hinge of, overexploitation of forest resources, either the wood and also the animals that they take for games. So what do we do? What can we do for those societies whereby they would depend less on the forest resources and there would be an alternative source? Because everybody just says don't cut, but how do they continue to live their lives without not cutting? Yeah, so please, that's my question.
Yeah, Bisola, that's a very important one. And it's particularly important because biodiversity loss is something that we really talk about over here. We talk about climate change a lot, but we don't talk about biodiversity loss. And I don't know why that is, but there's a lot of wildlife crime going on in the country. So, but knowing the context matters a lot, right? So, of course, you cannot go to a community and just say, stop hunting bushmeat, stop using insecticides, stop doing this, stop doing that. You have to understand the context. So you have to know what the alternatives are. And that's why I always say, like, studying the environment, studying the community matters a lot, and the context matters a lot. So while I may not be able to prefer that particular solution for your community, I can definitely say that you could study the problem, right? Study what types of animals are being hunted, and then seek opportunities to engage. So, for example, there's this wildlife conservation society I think they're in Calabar. Yeah. So they do a lot of work around wildlife conservation. And I remember, I think was it last year? Yes, I was in Kenya, and we went to this national park in Nairobi to see the animals, right? And we paid the money to see this place. And then I was like, some of these animals, we have them in Nigeria, but it's only when we travel to other countries that we go to see these animals. But how about we conserve what we have at home? So it's basically a large portion of the work, right, lies with the government, because they are the ones who have the might and the capacity to stop these wildlife crimes. But I would definitely say that engaging with the communities and knowing what the problem is and trying to figure out how best to communicate the reduction of wildlife and biodiversity loss. Sorry, biodiversity, things that are harmful to biodiversity. And then, like I mentioned, the Wildlife Conservation Society, I think that if you would subscribe to their mailing list, you would get some tips. And they do host a couple of internships, and I think that that's another way to get involved. We don't really, sometimes we're trying to, the problem is so big and we're so small and we're trying to do it all. But I think sometimes it just starts from the low-hanging fruits, just trying to join or align with people who are currently doing the existing work. And I think that will go a long way in trying to solve the issues. I hope this answer helps you in any way.
All right, Fatima, thank you so much for that. Blessing, I hope your question was answered. I'm going to take the next question. While I wait for Blessing's response, I'm going to take the next question from the group chat. Chikam Nile, I'm seeing your hand. I can see your hand. So I just want to take from the chat box and then we go back to audio. Is that fine? Okay. From Timothy Ogeni, it says, are the climate impacts same in all states in Nigeria? How do they differ in prevalence according to regions? That's from Timothy Ogeni from the chat box.
Okay, thank you, Timothy. I think I mentioned in my presentation that the impacts are not the same, even the effects are not the same. I did mention that in some parts of the country, we experience sea level rise and coastal flooding. So coastal communities are being affected in some parts of the country. While in the northern part of Nigeria, we don't really have coastal communities, right, because they're mostly dry land. So what we usually experience in the northern part of the country is droughts and desertification. So the impacts differ according to the climate and the I don't know what geographers call it, but is it topography or whatever, but the impacts vary. Yeah.
All right. Timothy, I hope that answer your question. That impact varies. It's actually never the same in all areas. And I'm going to move on to the next question from the chat box from Blessing Udumo. She says, does open sewages contribute to the emission of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does, because I mentioned that primarily the emission of greenhouse gas emissions is from burning of fossil fuels, right, and industrial practices. But right now, the climate change is at an unprecedented level, right? So there are more okay, let me just go back a bit. Currently, what we practice in the whole world is a linear economy, and I talk about this a lot. Is a linear economy. So we take a resource from the ground, we make it into something, and then we throw it away. That's a linear economy. A circular economy is where we keep things in circulation. So, and a huge part of biodiversity loss and climate change is attributed to the lifestyle we are currently living. So, for example, open sewages that she mentioned, food waste and agricultural waste contributes to greenhouse gas emissions, particularly methane. Methane is even known to be more toxic than carbon, which comes from aircrafts and vehicles, right? Methane is known to be more toxic than carbon, and this comes from food and agricultural practices, and even some petroleum products. So there's so many issues. So definitely, open dumping and open sewages contributes not exactly to the emission of greenhouse gases, but to the impacts of what is already existing. I hope this answers your question.
Blessing, I hope it answers your question. Thank you, Fatima. That was insightful. The whole process, analyzing the effect of our actions, of every action that we take. Imagine buying bottled water, maybe on the road when there's traffic, you drink the water and then you dump it on the ground, and then the cycle goes on and on. So we being aware of activities or actions like that can actually impact the environment negatively is something we should all be aware of. That everything we do, every step we take, every action we take is actually has a ripple effect, either positively or negatively, on the environment. Okay, we still have some questions from the chat box, but I'm going to give the mic to Chikam Nele. Yeah, Chikam Nele, can you unmute yourself and ask a question, please?
Okay, good morning, everyone. Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yeah, we can. Good morning.
Okay, good morning, Ochichi. Good morning, Fatima. Thank you very much for that presentation. It was really insightful. Well, I have some questions to ask. I don't know if I can just say all of them at once, and it will be okay like that.
Please go ahead. Yeah, please
Okay.
go ahead.
Yeah. During the presentation, Fatima made mention of the certification and desert encroachments when she was talking about climate change and ecosystems. So I would want to know, what are the major causes of the certification and desert encroachment? So that's the first question. My second question is, what legal measures are in place to address climate change in Nigeria? Or coming to understand that climate change now is really an issue in Nigeria, and it's no more a joke. So are there legal measures by the government perhaps to address climate change in Nigeria? And also my last question, when she was talking about making a difference, mapping climate change impact, she talked of documenting the frequency and intensity of extreme weather events. So us as individuals, how do we go about it? Documenting the frequencies and intensity of extreme weather events. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yes, I talked about desertification and desert encroachment. So let me start from the beginning, right? In 1992, there's this thing called the Rio Convention where three conventions were adopted. The Convention on Biological Diversity, the Convention to Combat Desertification, then the Framework Convention on Climate Change. These are the three triple planetary crises that the UN found to be the most alarming, and that's why these conventions were formed in 1992. So some of the things that cause desertification are overgrazing, and this is like a hot take, but if you reside in the north part of Nigeria, northwest or northeast, you will see a lot of animals. These animals are doing a lot of damage on the land. So overgrazing is one. Number two, there's the improper agricultural practices like bush burning. When they do this, when they clear these bushes to prepare for the next agricultural cycle, they are also harming the animals and the biodiversity that exists, the indigenous plants that exist in these places. Another cause of desertification is deforestation, illegal felling of trees for maybe export or whatever. That definitely goes a long way in causing desert encroachment. Then you asked about the legal measures to climate change in Nigeria. So I don't know if you guys are aware of course, I think everybody's aware of the Paris Agreement, right? So the Paris Agreement is kind of like a legally binding agreement where all countries or all parties as they are referred to are signatories to this agreement. And this is basically trying to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions to 1.5 degrees or so to reduce the impact, because as it's going on, the impacts are being felt more and more as more emissions are going on. We're experiencing the effects of climate change tenfold, right? So for Nigeria, in 2021, there was a National Climate Change Act, the Climate Change Act that was passed in 2021. And this was essentially to highlight Nigeria's response to climate change. So this is like maybe 2 years or 3 years now in the making. From that Climate Change Act, which was passed in 2021, there's now the National Council on Climate Change, which is the legally binding instrument to monitor climate change in Nigeria. There's also the Energy Transition Plan, which was looking about how we can address our energy challenges and so on to reduce emissions. Then there's the nationally determined contributions where we so there's a lot of it actually, and I think you should try to do a bit of research online to find there are so many legal instruments, right, that you could find based on climate change. And then documentary frequency. I don't like to load so many things on people. When I give you advice to take action, right? I mean, like for me, the way I started was by joining people who were already doing similar things, and it made things easier than trying to start doing things from scratch. So you join, you look for organizations or volunteer groups that are involved in things like this that you want to be involved in. It helps when you align with them. You are best able to do what you want to. And you could also suggest some of these ideas with them. And I think I've done this a couple of times where I joined some environmental energy transition groups who were doing similar things that I wanted to be involved in. I got to learn from them, and I was able to suggest one or two things. So from there, you could go from a volunteer to taking on more active roles within these things. And then you could also start up these things in your own communities, but it starts by you picking up one or two lessons from them and then trying to implement them in your own skill. I hope this helps in any way.
Chikamnele, that was for you and also to other participants. Did everyone get that? Okay. All right. Fatima, thank you for that. I got that. Chikamnele, I don't know if you're trying to unmute yourself. I can see you. So if you got that, kindly unmute yourself and respond. So we have some questions in the chat box. Okay. So please write your questions, put it in the chat box, and then I'll just pick three randomly. And there was one that was also asked on YouTube. I'm going to read that out so we can address these issues. Okay. From YouTube, Ilesami Bello, he said, Ma, you mentioned discussing with old people, but are these conversations being collected and made available as data for future use and for policy direction?
Thank you. That's a very important one. And this goes back to the researchers, right? A lot of Nigerians who are in this space actually complain that there's a lot of research that is going on, but the research is not being made available. And I think this is because maybe this research is being funded by so and so they don't make it available to everyone. So I think the onus now falls back on us to try to change the status quo. If we see something we don't like, we can try to change it. And I think we could try to do that in any way that we can.
All right.
Helps.
Thank you for that. I'll read out one more question from YouTube from Ilesami Bello. Fatima, you mentioned discussing with Okay, I think it still answers the question about the one you just answered about old people and having these conversations being collected. So for another question, my question is there any program in place to tackle climate change in Nigeria? Climate change is a joke anymore. Of course there are, but Fatima, I would need the answer for that.
Sorry, I didn't even get the question.
Okay, it was asking if there are any. Wait, I'm missing it. Okay, if there are any program in place to tackle climate change in Nigeria, this is one of them. But so his question is there any program in place to tackle climate change in Nigeria? Climate change isn't a joke anymore. So that's his question.
Okay, so there are several, and just like she mentioned, this is one of them. So the thing is, right, you can approach climate change from literally any angle. It could be educating the populace, it could be community engagement, it could be public awareness, it could be enlightenment. There's an article in the Paris Agreement which talks about action for climate empowerment, which is basically enlightening the populace about what is going on. So there are several other things. While you may not be able to reduce emissions as a person, there are so many other things that you can do. And because climate change cuts across several sectors now, so there's definitely a lot. Yeah.
All right. Because of our time, I'm going to take three more questions. The rest you can ask them in the group. They'll definitely be responded to. So Friday, Edois, please unmute yourself. Keep it brief, and let's go straight to the point. So all most questions can be answered on here. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, I would like to ask concerning a particular slide which says solar radiation, one of the major problems that causes climate change. So, and we can see in Nigeria currently, we observe that solar is the order of the day, where everybody is trying to have energy at home. So I want to ask, does this have any negative effect on human and in the climate change itself? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. That's a very important one. Well, I am not aware of any impact that it has. I do know that it has a time frame. And there are issues surrounding maybe the time frame that it has, maybe 30, 40, 50 years. I don't know. I'm not really big on energy issues like that, but the solar radiation that we're talking about is, sorry, I think when we talk about climate change, we're talking about infrared radiation, right? So when it meets these gases, it traps it into the atmosphere. But as for capturing the solar radiation to provide energy, this is definitely on the plus side. It's definitely on the positive side. So I'm not aware of any negative impacts that it has. Unless maybe when you talk about how these materials can be used again after they are done with. Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Fatima. So at this point, I'm going to wrap up so we can prepare for the next session. Fatima, I saw your question and it's going to be addressed on the group. I know you had two questions. I have the questions down here. Okay, and so it's going to be addressed on the group. Right now, we're going to wrap up so we can prepare for the next session, which is starting by 12. So everyone should please prepare. I'm also going to drop the link for the post-learning survey where before we started we filled the form for the pre-learning session survey. So kindly fill the post-learning session survey. Okay, I've noted all questions down and they'll be responded to on the group chat. Okay, so I'm going to send the link now. So please do well to fill it and we'll pick it up from there. If you miss the pre-learning survey, okay, I'm still going to share it, but let me share the post-learning survey first so we're not confused or we don't fill the wrong link. So I just shared the link for the post-learning survey. Please let's endeavor to fill it out. Thank you so much. Fatima, thank you so much for joining us for this session. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your presentation. It was simple, it was apt, it was very easy to understand, and it was also very informative and detailed at the same time. Thank you so much. Um, it was delivered with so much ease and diligence. So thank you, Fatima.
Thank you so much for having me. Like, I had a nice time speaking with everyone. Thank you. And wishing you the best of luck with your future endeavors.
Yeah. Thank you so much. That's everyone. It's not just to me. Oh.
Yes, it's to
Fatima
everyone.
wishes are not just to me,
Yes,
it's to
good luck with the
everyone.
rest of the program.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. I think the first person that asked the question, somebody also responded to her that if there are SDGs clubs in your school or where you are, you can also join that. So don't try to operate in as an island. Okay. Try to interact with people. That's why we are also having this Climate Voices Nigeria. So there's a community of people. Don't try to exist alone. Work with people, collaborate, partner up with people, and success is just it's just a step, a couple of steps away. Okay. Okay. So I'll share the link again if it has been buried by messages. I've shared the link again for the post learning survey. Kindly fill it out, and we'll be rounding up in the next um 1 or 2 minutes. Okay. For those that your hands are up, please write down your questions. Endeavor to write down your questions and share it on the group chat via WhatsApp and also share it on the group chat here so we can take note of those questions so everyone's questions are answered. Okay, I've shared the link again. Please fill out the form. Okay, how about the attendance? You missed the pre-learning session, so I'm going to impute the pre-learning. Impute the pre and the post, so we can all fill the link. Okay, I just shared the pre-learning survey link. Please let's endeavor to fill it up and we'll be wrapping up soon. So I'm grateful to everyone. NG's SDGs is thankful to everyone that joined the call today. That we are more knowledgeable than we were a couple of hours ago about climate change and the parts that each of us can play in making a change, making a difference in our environment. So let's do well to take actions and not just be hearers alone. Okay, and that's a wrap. So the link is still there, so you can leave the call right now. I'm about ending the meeting. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mustafa. Thank you, Mustafa Buhari. I can see you. Thank you, Joseph. Did you attend the 12 p.m. session? The above is on the post-learning survey. The link I've been sharing previously is the post-learning survey. The link I just shared right now is the pre-learning survey link. I typed it above it so you can differentiate it. So kindly fill that out. It's also going to be on the group chat, so you can also pick it up from there. Okay. Thank you to everyone. Thank you, Joseph Yulade, Adam Dakata. Thank you. And let's take a quick break and we'll be back here by 12 p.m.